I'm in the big leagues, told him don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I am your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, a.k.a. Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, we had some pretty big news, I should say, from the NBA over this past week, and some pretty good moments. So I kind of want to go over some of that. First of all, got to give a quick shout out. Got a new shirt. My good friend and coworker, Mr. Peter Farrell, aka For Real, because I call him the truth, but my 90s kids will remember that. But got me this Tim Duncan limited edition 21 t-shirt. So I wanted to give him a quick shout out, Mr. Peter. You're a real one. Thank you. You know what's up. Spurs always going to be better than the Rockets. But anyway, let's talk about first on this week's episode of the show. Let's talk about the best moments of the week. So let's get into it. One of the biggest pieces of, or one of my favorite moments over this past week from NBA action was the return of the one, Klay Thompson. So let's talk about it. So Klay Thompson made his triumphant return after a 2.5 year hiatus away from basketball due to major leg injuries on both legs. So Klay Thompson played this was Sunday, past Sunday, the 9th, against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of all teams, you know, they had all those battles, 4 years in a row, I believe it was, that they played Cleveland in the playoffs, and won 3 out of those 4 years in the finals, but it was really, really cool to see his introduction, the very first introduction that Klay has had into the Chase Center. Like, he played in the last game at Oracle, and he, has never played in this brand new Chase Center arena that they had in the Bay Area. So that was really cool to see. Like I said, it was his first game in the new Chase Center. Lots of love and tweets were poured out for Klay Thompson, which was really cool to see. He is definitely a beloved figure. These are some of the things that people said. Jamal Crawford, a.k.a. Jay Crossover, if y'all remember him, said, "So dope seeing Klay back in the court." Emmanuel Keekly from the New York Knicks, current player, typed out Klay with a bunch of Y's. Thought that was pretty funny. Markieff Morris said, "Good to see you back, bro." Langston Galloway said, "Glad to see you back out there." Donovan Spider-Mitchell in Utah said, "Welcome back, Klay." Jamal Murray said, "Goosebumps watching Klay Thompson." So a lot of love from his peers coming out around the NBA. So that was really cool to see Klay Thompson, have that love shown to him. So it's been a long time. It's been literally like Klay Thompson, like the last time Klay Thompson was in the league, like COVID wasn't even a thing. Like, that's how long Klay Thompson's been away from basketball. So that was really cool. But he's on a minutes restriction. Klay Thompson, he only played 20 minutes in his first game back. Didn't stop him from taking 18 shots, though. So Klay Thompson went 7 of 18. So not his most efficient night, but this is his first game back. He was getting as many shots as he wanted to. He actually scored the first basket for the Warriors in the game, which is pretty cool. On a drive, no less. We know Klay Thompson to be a shooter, but it was on a drive. But he went 3 of 8 from 3-point range. Like I said, not the most efficient night, but it's his first night back. He's got to get back into playing shape and all that good stuff. But the story was, Klay Thompson obviously coming back in that game, but Steph Curry had himself a night. He had 37 points, and no one really noticed it at all, like I said, because it was really about Klay Thompson, which was really cool. But the Warriors won the game. They did beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Chase Center, 96-82 in Klay's first game back. So that was pretty cool. Now, he has been back since that Sunday game. They have played 2 more times. They're actually playing, I'm filming this Thursday night, but they actually played, they're playing right now. But they played before that, and they did lose to a red-hot Grizzlies team. They lost 116-108. Now, Klay Thompson played another 20 minutes in that game, put in a respectable 14 points. And I'm sure, if you ask Klay, he's probably ready to play 35-plus minutes a night. But they're definitely, I'm sure, going to be slow monitoring his progress and how he recovers from, both of those major injuries. But like I said, he'll be on a minutes restriction probably for a while, more than he would probably like. But, want to get his timing back and get him back into playing shape. But he looked pretty good out there, especially in that first game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He looked like he hadn't, missed a beat, which was really cool. But overall, I'm happy to see Klay Thompson back. Seems like everybody else in the league is also happy to see Klay Thompson back. So it's pretty cool that he is back in the Warriors lineup. It's kind of like, all is well again in the NBA, except that was one major piece missing from the league over the past, that would be a staple over the past, 6-7 years since they've started going to the championship. So shout out to Klay Thompson. But let's move on. Let's talk about another game. Best moment of the week, in my opinion, was the Nets-Bulls game that aired on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. Let's get into that and unpack that just a little bit. So the Bulls have the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They have been playing very well, and the Nets have had the number 2 seed. So they've kind of been doing this over the past number of weeks. But the Bulls have definitely been surging, been beating quite a few teams. Now, this was only the second game of this season that the Nets have had all their big three. Obviously, with Kyrie Irving's vaccination status, which we've talked about multiple times, he hasn't been in the lineup, and he's only allowed to play road games. But this is the second game that they had KD, Harden, and Kyrie Irving all play together. But like I mentioned, the Bulls have been on a tear. Last 10 games, they went 8-2, which is a pretty solid record over a 10-game stretch. And they've beat some pretty good teams in that stretch. This Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan pairing has definitely fared far better than I anticipated personally. I definitely did not see them meshing as well as they have. So shout out to them. I was definitely wrong about that. They've been incredibly solid. But this game was close in the first half. Pretty much back and forth all throughout the first half. But then the second half was a different story. It wasn't even close. It kind of reminds you of that meme, like of that one kid in the high school football. He's like, they had us in the first half. We not gonna lie. And then they came back in that victory. But it reminds me of that meme. This game did. Second half was not close at all. Brooklyn had 39 points in the third quarter, outscoring the Bulls by 20. The Bulls only had 19 points in that third quarter. KD went on a scoring rampage. KD finished with 27 points and 9 assists. James Harden also put in 25 points and 16 assists. I believe that's his career high, specifically with Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken, which was pretty incredible. Only 2 turnovers as well. So doing all that passing with only 2 turnovers, pretty impressive. But definitely a statement win, in my opinion, for the Brooklyn Nets against, the Chicago Bulls. A team that they'll more than likely see in the playoffs. I mean, right now, playoffs started today. If they met, it'd have to be the Eastern Conference Finals. But I can see this playoff happening in the playoffs, and should be a pretty good series. I would give the overall edge to Brooklyn, obviously with Kyrie Irving, KD, and James Harden as well. But Kyrie Irving definitely struggled in this game. I was looking at the box score. He only put in 9 points off 4 of 10 shooting, so not the most efficient night. Only 1 of 3 from 3-point range. Had 4 rebounds and 3 assists though, but not the greatest night for him. So the fact that the Nets were able to win this game 138-112 with Kyrie Irving playing the way he did is kind of scary. They put in a lot of scoring against them. Now, Derrick Jones Jr. Did get hurt within about the first minute of the game. Alex Caruso also didn't play. I think he's still in health and safety protocols with COVID, so hopefully he gets better soon. But those are, 2 pretty big pieces of their lineup. Lonzo Ball didn't have a great night either. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine putting in 19 and 22 points respectively as well. So not an overall great night from the Chicago Bulls, but still first in the Eastern Conference, 27-12, with Brooklyn right at their heels at 26-14. So should be interesting to see. I don't know if these teams play each other again. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked at the schedule. But I could see this being a playoff matchup, and I could see it being a pretty good one. But let's talk about another one of the best moments in the NBA. This one's pretty serious, y'all. It's a rivalry brewing in the NBA, and I'm talking about the rivalry between Devin Booker and the Toronto Raptors mascot. So this was pretty funny. So Devin Booker was basically taking a free throw last few seconds of the game. It was a close game, and the Raptors have limited their fans. I think they're having no fans in the stadium as of right now due to the surge in coronavirus cases. But the Toronto Raptors mascot was trying to distract Devin Booker, and I guess Devin Booker took exception to it and had the ref move the Raptor or the mascot out of the way as a distraction. So I was just reading an article about it. This is from people.com. So Devin Booker says he's cool with the Raptors mascot after having the red dino move during the game. Says Phoenix Suns star Devin Booker is not holding a grudge against the Raptors mascot following their standoff during the final moments of Tuesday night's matchup in Toronto. The shooting guard revealed during a post-game conference that it was all good between him and the red dinosaur after he requested it be moved so he could complete his free throws without distraction. Which is hilarious because you got to think if there were fans in the stands, you'd be distracted by all the fans. They're kind of waving their towels and whatever things they have to kind of distract them. But Devin Booker, and I quote, said, "We hashed it out. We homies now," which is just hilarious to me. Like I said, the article says the viral incident occurred after Devin Booker was fouled with 6.5 seconds remaining in the game. After successfully making his first free throw, the athlete was visually annoyed that the Raptor was jumping around and asked the referee to move the mascot away from the basket. I just think that's hilarious that he had to have them move. If any of y'all remember, any of y'all keep up with NBA news, Devin Booker, this was a pickup game. This had to be maybe 2-3 off seasons ago, but they were playing pickup and he got double teamed. And he was like, nah, we're not doing double teams in pickup. I remember watching that video, like he got upset, took exception that he was getting double teamed in pickup. And I was like, dude, like, we always talk about Devin Booker having that mama mentality. Like, shoot over him. Shoot over two people. Like, Kobe would have did that. Like, you complaining, like, do something about it. Get out of it. So I just thought that was pretty funny. Devin Booker, he definitely, I'm just going to leave it at that. I thought it was hilarious. But let's take a look around the league. Let's look around at some actual news from around the league. This just dropped today. Like I said, I'm filming this Thursday night. You'll be hearing this tomorrow on Friday. But let's talk about the Cam Reddish trade to the New York Knicks. So Atlanta Hawks have traded Cam Reddish to the New York Knicks. So basically, Cam Reddish, this dropped from Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN senior NBA insider. Cam Reddish and Solomon Hill, as well as a 2025 second-round pick via Brooklyn, will be headed to the New York Knicks. And in return, Atlanta will be receiving Kevin Knox and a 2022 first-round pick via Charlotte. That will be heading to the Atlanta Hawks. So I thought this was a pretty interesting trade. Cam Reddish is super talented. I always thought he's had some injuries, so he's kind of been in and out of the lineup over the past couple of years, but he's 22, super young. I definitely was a bit taken aback by this trade, especially what Atlanta got in return. I know they got a first-round pick, which is cool, but I'm just like, that's it for Cam Reddish? But according to the article that I was reading, it says, Reddish to 10th pick in the 2019 draft was the victim of an overpopulated Hawks roster of talented young wing players. That ultimately left him without the role or pathway to a contract extension, and the Hawks made it a priority to move him ahead of the February 10th trade deadline. So I guess, they weren't going to pay him. They weren't going to offer him that extension, so might as well get some value for him, which I definitely understand. But Kevin Knox and a first-round pick, I feel like they could have got a little bit more for that. But, it is what it is. So I definitely think the Knicks end up coming out on the better end of this trade because they got a really, really talented wing player with a pretty high upside. Now, I thought about this. Someone else pointed this out on Twitter, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So the Knicks now have R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, and there's another player from Duke that played alongside them by the name of Zion Williamson. There's been a lot of rumors that Zion really wants to play in New York. So obviously, his contract isn't up or anything like that. It's still on his rookie deal. But could Zion force his way in a trade to the New York Knicks? I would not be opposed to that one bit, being the Duke fan that I am. And I do enjoy watching the Knicks at the Garden as well. So that'd be pretty neat. That'd be pretty neat if Zion, Williamson eventually ended up in New York and all three of them reunited with the New York Knicks. I think that'd be pretty neat. But let's transition. Let's talk about another story, a story that I've talked about multiple times that I really don't care to talk about anymore because it just needs to get done. Let's talk about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons' agent has met with Philadelphia 76ers. Long and short of it all, they are no closer to a trade resolution. So this also came from Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN. It says, sources, Ben Simmons' agent meets with Philadelphia 76ers but signs no closer to resolution. With the NBA trade deadline a month away, Ben Simmons' agent, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, met with Sixers president of basketball operations Daryl Morey and GM Elton Brand on Wednesday. The sides remain at a stalemate over the All-Star guard's immediate future. Continue reading here. It says Simmons is no closer to honoring the team's hopes for a return to the court this season, and the Sixers' steep asking price has brought Simmons no closer to a potential trade. If you read further in the article, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it looks like it was a professional meeting. Both sides, were described as amicable and professional. But Daryl Morey is adamant about not trading Ben Simmons unless they get something in return that will help them compete for a championship. Rich Paul allegedly told the Sixers that Simmons' mental health hurdles continue to preclude him from a return to play to the team, and his desire to trade out of Philadelphia remains in place. So, essentially, Simmons obviously doesn't want to play in Philadelphia and refuses to play in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has super high expectations for a return for Ben Simmons. So, I mean, I really don't know what's going to happen, where this is going to end up. I mean, I guess, like, with the trade deadline in a month, like, trade deadline, I think it's February 10th, if I'm not mistaken, like, they got to get this deal done. Like, they got to get a deal done and get Ben Simmons out of there because, like, it's a whole season. Like, basically, you're paying this guy, not to play. I understand, like, he's got his mental health issues, and I'm not downplaying that one bit. But, like, he clearly doesn't want to play for the Philadelphia 76ers, but he's under contract for another 4 years. Philly doesn't have to do anything. They could drag this out for 4 years, but I can't remember who it was. Somebody on one of the ESPN shows brought up a good point, like Joel Embiid has been relatively healthy all season, but he has a history of injury. So, like, you're kind of wasting another season of Joel Embiid while he's in his prime. Like, with his injury history, like, how long is he going to be at this elite level? Like, you got to get this deal done and get Ben Simmons out of there. So, we'll see what happens. I really hope this is done by the trade deadline so we don't have to talk about it anymore, but we'll see what happens. But last story around the association that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has had abdominal surgery and is supposed to miss at least 6 weeks. So, article here says, Portland Trailblazers guard Damian Lillard has undergone surgery to address a lingering abdominal injury the team announced on Thursday. Per the Blazers, Lillard had surgery to repair a core injury causing chronic abdominal pain. Procedure was completed at the Vincere Institute in Philadelphia. He'll be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Yahoo Sports reported Lillard is expected to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. So, I mean, this pretty much ends their playoff aspirations, right? I mean, I don't see the Portland Trailblazers being able to hold it down, while Damian Lillard is gone for 6, potentially up to 8 weeks. Like, they're just not talented enough. At least in my opinion, they're not talented enough. So, I mean, with the injury, that 6 to 8 weeks is going to take us past the trade deadline. I mean, I guess he could realistically, like, ask for a trade while he's recovering from injury, but it looks like he's probably not going to do that. Damian Lillard's just too loyal of a guy, which I respect that. But, I mean, where is this going? Like, Damian Lillard, I think, is 30 or 31, so not getting any younger. Somewhat a smaller guard. He's like 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. So, he's creeping up on the tail end of his prime. He's only got, a few good prime years left. I could see him playing at an elite level for a while based off his shooting ability alone, but still, like, Damian Lillard, like, he's gotta get out of Portland. He's got to ask for a trade because Portland has not made this team better. They are, like I've talked about multiple times, they're arguably worse than they were last year in terms of talent. I know Chauncey Billups, solid coach, done the best he could with what he's had, but I just don't see Damian Lillard hopefully staying in Portland for too much longer. But we'll see what happens. Last thing that I want to talk about, let's transition one final time and go into our marquee matchups for the weekend. So if you remember last week I had the marquee matchups, got it pulled up right here. I picked the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Brooklyn Nets. I picked the I picked the Phoenix Suns to beat the Miami Heat. And I picked the Los Angeles Lakers to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. And last weekend, I did not do so well. I did correctly pick the Bucks beating the Nets last week. But the Suns got destroyed by the Miami Heat at home, too, which was pretty crazy. And I picked the Lakers to beat the Grizzlies, thinking that the Lakers would try to avenge their loss from the Grizzlies from a couple of weeks before that. Well, boy, was I wrong about that, because the Grizzlies whooped them. I mean, they whooped the Lakers. So that'll be the last time I'll be picking the Lakers pretty much all season. Pretty much the last time I'll be picking the Lakers for my marquee matchups. But that brings my season total to 11-7 so far, which, I mean, out of 18 games, that's not terrible. It's 4 games above 500, so it's not too bad. But these are the games that I've got coming up for this weekend. So this Friday tonight, marquee game, we got the Boston Celtics taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. I am going to go with the Philadelphia 76ers at home. They have been playing really well, had a good winning streak going before they lost earlier in the week. But I'm going to pick the 76ers because the Boston Celtics have been way too inconsistent. And I'm a Celtics fan. They're my second favorite team. They're my Eastern Conference team, my backup team, obviously behind my number one, San Antonio Spurs. But I'm going to pick the Philadelphia 76ers to win that game tonight, this Friday night. But tomorrow's game, Saturday's game, New York Knicks are taking on the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to go with the home team again in this one. I'm going to take the Atlanta Hawks to beat the New York Knicks. It'll be interesting. I don't know if Cam Reddish will be available to play this Saturday, with the trade just happening, but we'll see. It'd be pretty cool if he was. But I am going to go with the Atlanta Hawks to win this game in ATL. And then Sunday's game, the 16th, Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets, 2 Western Conference teams, 2 division rivals, will be playing off. I'm going to go with the Utah Jazz. Denver Nuggets have kind of dealt with some injuries here recently. Jokic has been balling out, but they have kind of been losing while he has been playing pretty well. So I'm going to go with the Utah Jazz. And everybody knows, you guys know how I feel about the Utah Jazz. I don't think they'll do much in the playoffs, but I will pick them to win this game. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you today. As I always say, thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you can do all the good things, like, share, subscribe, rate the podcast, leave comments, all that good stuff, I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic weekend coming up. You get to do all the good things that you want to do, and I will see you next Friday. Take care.
Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stands. I deserve another 100 bands. I deserve another 100 fans. Told them this was always in the plans. I just did it cause they said I can. Blowing euros when I'm down in France. Labels asking how I build a brand. Told them put a check up in my hands. Boy got time, no cap. Made a few checks, but they all in the raps. Had a few friends, but they suck in the past. I don't even trip when I'm thinking about that. Hopped in the whip and we all in.